And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome all to Trending in the AM right here on Edge of Philly Sports. I'm your host, Phil Stiefel, every single morning right here. You can find me up here to Knowledge. Do me that favor, hit that like button, that share button, that subscribe, follow, retweet, wherever you're watching, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, wherever we're streaming, we stream everywhere. Make sure you do whatever you could do on each one of those platforms to share it out and get as many people involved. Today's a special episode of Train the AM. We are pre-recorded. So I know the Core 12 love all their comments getting in. I'll be reading them from the golf course. I am playing golf today. So this is a recording on Sunday with a very special guest, my main man from PHL 17, from all over, from a 30-plus year career in sports, in media, in radio, in TV. My main man, Jason Lee. How you doing today, Jason?
Phil, good to be with you, man. I'm great. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, and I really greatly appreciate your time. Guys, if you don't know Jason Lee from his stuff on PHL 17, you got to make sure you follow. And I linked his YouTube page down below, Philly Sports Convo. It's basically the follow-up to his show that, unfortunately, I helped get canceled by my appearance on PHL 17 because of me.
No.
So he's on YouTube now.
No. Hey, listen, man. If anything, you elongated the show, my friend. You kept it going.
This is not a face for TV. I always say I belong on the radio, not on YouTube or TV, because this look here does not draw ratings.
Well, listen, and I told you this before, and not because of your look, but you do belong on the radio because you're damn good, and you are on par with everybody doing sports radio today. And Phil didn't pay me to say that, at least yet. Maybe some free pizza.
Yeah, well, definitely some free pizza for you anytime. Maybe not today because it's like 98 in the pizza shop today, so not today. But you have had a long career, over 30 years. I mean, I was double checking just to pre-prep myself for the show. I mean, Ben FM, B101, PHL 17. You spent a little time with WIP. I mean, you have done it all in 30 plus years in the media career. What's your secret to sustaining? Because there's not many people that have been able to have that kind of long career in one city. Because you've been in Philadelphia your whole time.
Yeah, I'm here and never left. I've been very lucky because most people have to go to a smaller market and kind of build up their career and then try to come back home. I've been lucky. I've never wanted to leave. I've never had to leave. I've been with some great stations, as you mentioned. I was on actually Action News for 3 years doing their traffic. So it's been a really good career. I mean, secret, I don't know. Luck. I mean, listen, luck is a big part of it. I mean, to a point, you have to make your own luck, but if you're persistent, if you love what you do, if you have a passion for what you do, it's like you do every morning on this show. You have a passion for what you do, and that will take you places. Your passion and your persistence with a little luck mixed in, and it'll take you far.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you just stuck to one thing. You've done it all. You've done traffic updates, weather updates, obviously the sports on air stuff, producing behind the scenes. Whenever I see people struggling early in their career, and I'm no media expert. I've been doing this for a few years. I'm a restaurant guy. But what I tell everybody is to be creative, to not be afraid to do something different from what your main goals are, to maybe backdoor your way in. I don't know if you know El Parcero, JP. He's part of the new Anthony Gargano morning show. He's one of their producers. But he got into talking Union, years and years ago, before it was cool to talk the Philadelphia Union. And that he used that backdoor to make a name for him. So don't be afraid to kind of mix it up a little bit to keep your foot in the door with a lot of companies.
Well, yeah, not only that. I mean, first of all, don't be afraid to try something new. Do whatever you can do, like you said, to get your foot in the door. Like my first job on television was doing the weather. I always wanted to be a play-by-play sports guy. Ironically, that's the one thing I haven't done. But you whatever opportunities come your way, you say yes. I never wanted to be a weather guy. I ended up being a weather guy for quite a long time on a couple of stations, actually. And it led to different things, led to doing traffic, led to doing some sports updates on IP. You never say no. Don't be afraid of failure because it happens to everybody. Mm-hmm. Failure makes you better, okay? It makes you stronger. Don't be afraid of failure. And like you said, don't be afraid to try anything new because trying something new, trying something you never thought you'd want to do can lead to something that you love doing. You just never know. And I think that's part of the longevity as well. I mean, I never say no to anything, Phil. I think you're the same way. I mean, I'm a workaholic. Seems like you are as well. I never say no to anything, whether I've done it before or not. Hey, can you do traffic reporting? Never done it before. Why not? Let's try it. And I've been doing it for years now. So it's been a great career, and I've been very lucky.
Yeah, I mean, and through your great career, you've met and gotten to interact with and talk with, become friends with some of them. Some countless people. I know we've already talked before in the past about how great of a connection you have with Bernie Perrant.
He's the
Flyers
man.
legend, probably the greatest
He's the
Flyer of
man.
all time. But give me some of the names that, like, I was talking about this with. I was on somebody else's show, and it's like, do you ever get into a situation where you're meeting or interviewing somebody, and you're like, wow, like even after 30 years, you have to like step back and be like, wow, I just got to chit chat with Jason Lee. This is pretty awesome.
Well, you should have higher standards than that, my friend. Okay. No, it's funny. I mean, I was just doing this at work the other day. We were talking about famous people that we met, and I don't do this to brag. I do it because like I can't believe that this is me. I went through my phone, and some of the names in my phone. I mean, I've got let's see. Merrill Reese is in my phone. Mike Missinelli, Scott Fransky, Tom McCarthy, Gary Matthews. I mean, there's some great names here. Of course, Bernie Perrant. And again, I don't say that to brag. I say it because I cannot believe how amazingly lucky that I've been. And I do have to pinch myself. And I'm not going to lie. There are some people that I talk to, whether it was on the old TV show or on my podcast, and I get nervous talking to them. And, I've been doing this for 30 some years, but there are still some people that I get nervous talking to because they are just so larger than life. And I can't believe I'm talking to them.
Was there one person that you just really said, like, this is like when you got him, like you had a dream interview and you finally got him and you were just like, it deep down inside, you're like, damn, I finally got this. And it was just a big moment for you.
The first time I talked to Bernie Perrant, it was like that. But, the first time I talked to Merrill Reese, and the first time I interviewed Merrill, it was on TV. It was the week before Super Bowl 52. Okay, and I don't know if you know, Merrill runs a little AM radio station in Bucks County in Levittown. We went to the radio station, which is actually in like a little house. It's like the cutest setup ever. And I walk into the front door, and the receptionist desk is I just to the left. And it's a small setup, so like everything's right there. The studio's right there. The production studio is like down some stairs, and I hear Merrill from one of the production studios recording a spot, and I'm like, oh my God, that's Merrill Reese, and I couldn't believe. I mean, this is the guy that I grew up listening to, and it didn't matter that I myself had been in broadcasting at that point almost 3 decades. Mm-hmm. This is the guy that, as a little kid, I listened to on the radio doing Eagles games, and Harry Callis, and Gene Hart, if you remember Gene Hart with the Flyers back in the day, those were the 3 guys who made me want to go into broadcasting. There were some others as well, radio disc jockeys, but the 3 main guys were those 3 guys, and I was about to talk to one of them, and I was a nervous wreck, but he is the nicest guy in the world. I don't know if you ever had the pleasure of talking to him. He's the nicest guy ever.
I'm gonna somehow sneak to like the you do trivia at the Blue Bar in Warminster on Tuesdays now. Free plug for you there. Go check out my man
Thank
Jason
you.
on Tuesday
I appreciate
night
it.
there. I'm gonna sneak in and I'm gonna like clone your phone. I see that in spy movies and TV shows. I don't know how to do it, but I'm gonna clone your phone to steal all these phone numbers from you because there's some great names there. Man, Merrill Reese would be fantastic. I'll give you a little Bernie Perrant story. I was at a Flyers game just a decade ago. And I was in the shop where the merch shop there at the Wells Fargo Center. I'm there with my buddy, and I'm looking. I'm like, yo, my arm's twitching. I'm like, yo, I think that's Bernie Perrant right there. And I guess I said I have a loud voice. My wife always says my voice is way too loud. I guess he heard. He looked at me and gave me the little shh thing because I guess he was with his granddaughter. He was with a young girl. I guess it's his granddaughter, and I guess he didn't want to be bothered. But he was just hanging out in the shop. Just like a casual Joe Schmo, just buying his granddaughter a little gift from the gift shop, and I was like, "This is so cool!" Like, just like I'm here, this far away from him, but I gave him that courtesy of not bothering him. But I just loved him looking with a big grin on his face, like, "Yeah, I'm incognito right now. Don't." It was good.
He's a great guy. He's a down to earth guy. Can I give you a quick Merrill Reese story?
Absolutely.
When the first time I interviewed him, so like I said, we're at his radio station. We go into his office, me and the camera guy with me. He's setting up. He had two cameras, one to get the shot of the both of us and one to get just a single shot of him, for editing purposes. And we're about to record. We're about to start recording, and I'll never forget this. Merrill says to me, Jason, do you mind if I comb my hair first? I'm like, yeah, go ahead. Take your time. I mean,
that was a good voice impersonation there, too. That was solid work there.
I think everybody does a Merrill Reese, the backs of the eye, the wide receivers are split. It's good. Everybody does a Merrill impression.
No. I don't do any impersonations because it's pretty bad. Look, 30-plus years. It's obviously changed a lot as well, the media and the world of, sports and TV and radio and stuff like that. And it's something we cover far too often on this show, Trey in the AM, is, the new age of sports talk, of sports debating, of anything on TV. It's the hot takes, it's the clickbaits, it's the negativity sells. But there are still some legends out there that stick to that basic formula of just great conversation.
Yeah.
Do you think that it's getting a little out of control? Because you even see some big names, and I don't want to call anybody out because I don't want to, I don't know who you're friends with. I always try to keep things very professional and not call too many people out on this show because you never know who I might bump into someday. But do you think that there are some legendary names that are actually going this new way as well, not just the new up-and-comers? Do you think it's getting a little out of hand the way people are using bold, hot, crazy takes that deep down inside they don't even probably believe what they're saying, but they're saying it to get that click, to get that view, to get that read?
It does happen, and it's, in this age of social media, it's the immediacy of putting the hot take on social media and getting reaction and then going on the air and talking about that and getting phone calls. I don't notice that a lot on sports radio, but what I do notice is that I don't want to mention the show because and I've never met either one of these two people that I'm referring to, but I enjoy their show every day, and I think they're very good on the air and they make a good team. However, it seems like every single day, whatever issue they're talking about, conveniently, one is on one side of the issue and the other is on the other side of the issue. It's like they've never agreed on the same issue. It's always like, hey, should the Phillies, send down Johan Rojas or should they send down, whomever else? So and so thinks it should be Rojas. I think it should be the other guy. They always have opposite sides. They never agree on anything. And I can't believe that's always the case every single day. I mean, I'm sure that does happen naturally sometimes, but I'm sure they have to agree about something sometime, don't they? So, I mean, naturally that's done to spark arguments, to spark debate, to get phone calls. In terms of how else it's changed, radio especially, these big radio companies, they try to run stations on the cheap, okay? And, we're seeing that especially, all right, I'll say it, on the Fanatic, okay? They just fired...
I just so you know, I don't call them the Fanatic or WIP. I call them the Fanny Packs and WWWIP. That's how I refer to them on this show, so that I'm not directly saying their name, but everybody knows. Like, I have a nickname for every single, announcer, big media guy, radio guy there is out there. So we talk about them. I just disguise their names a little bit,
Well... And listen, the Fanatic and their parent company, their parent company also owns MMR and MGK, and those are two of the strongest stations in the city. So they obviously, to a point, know what they're doing. But when it comes to the Fanatic, they just fired a whole bunch of people. They go to ESPN Radio now at 10 o'clock at night. Meantime, their competition, what do you call them, WWIP?
WWWIP.
They're this 24/7 powerhouse. So how do they expect the Fanatic to compete with WIP when they're firing all these people? It's like you have to equip your station to be able to compete, and they're not doing it. And I think that's the trend in a lot of radio stations these days. We're seeing that with the all news station too. They cut corners, and they still think they can cover a huge city 24/7. Yet they're pre-recorded overnight. So basically, it's just radio companies trying to run radio stations on the cheap. And, WIP is one of the few stations that their parent company hasn't touched. Odyssey, they've probably gonna. I'm probably gonna. I'm gonna pay for saying this somehow, but my old station B101 is a shell of what it used to be. 98.1 is a shell of what it used to be. It's just the economics of radio these days. The fact that you can put everything on computer, like back in the day, you couldn't put anything on radio on a computer, so their station had to be staffed 24/7. I did overnights on B101 for 6 years. That would never happen today because the station just runs on a computer on autopilot, and it almost, it runs not just all night long. In a lot of cases, it runs all day long too. That's how many corners radio companies have cut. That's a long-winded answer to your question, Phil. But
no, because it follows a lot of changes. Like I said, I had Mark Perner. He was with the Inquirer for a while, and a couple other, major media newspapers for a while. And we were having this conversation off the air, and he's like, "Well, what do you want out of Trend in the AM?" I'm like, "My opinion on what I want out of this show has evolved over the last. I've been doing the morning show for 2.5 years now. The goal, my goal was always to be on the radio." And Mark's like, "Dude, I'm going to give you the perfect answer. Your goal should just to grow Trend in the AM on YouTube because." In this day and age, with the way radio stations are run, the chances for someone to get that opportunity are getting slimmer and slimmer and slimmer because of just the way you described it. And he's like, you should just continue focusing on just making whatever channel or network you get trending they own, just keep pushing and just keep growing it that way because, at one point, some of these radio stations might not even exist or have different, formats, 3, 4, 5 years from now. So, just keep doing it your way, and then you have full control over the way you manage your product.
No, he's exactly right. He's exactly right. You got a great. I'm not just saying this. I'm a fan. I've been a fan of yours for a long. That's why I had you on my old show. I think you're a fan. I'm a fan of yours, and I think you do a great job. And I think he's exactly right. Keep growing this product you have, and that was my thinking after my show went away. Starting the podcast these days. You don't need a radio station or a TV station to have your own show. You can do your own show online and build up an audience, and that's exactly what you've done.
And I want to go back to the radio for a sec because it made me think of something. And this just let me put this into words quickly here. These channels are losing so much money. These radio stations, TVs. But then you see the rumors that Stephen A. Smith was offered nearly $100 million over a couple years to stay at ESPN. WIP paid big bucks to get Spike Eskin on the show. There's a rumor floating around that your good friend Mike Missanelli will be going back to the Fanatic potentially in coming weeks or months. And they spend all their money on one guy at each channel, which then hurts the product the rest of the way, makes the rest of the product suffer. Does somebody need to step in, a producer, a channel executive, and be like, maybe instead of spending $1 billion on one person, if we spend $1 billion on 10 really good people, it builds the overall product better. Maybe the business format is what the problem is on these channels.
The problem with what you just said, Phil, is that it makes way too much sense. I'm
a businessman. That's what I am.
Well, and listen, and this is no disrespect to Stephen A. You have to respect how the man has built up his career from being a sports writer with the Inquirer for 15, 16, 17 years, something like that, to what he is now making 10, 12 plus $1 million a year at ESPN. You have to respect that. That being said, you're right. They gave him a new contract for huge money. At the same time, they laid off a bunch of other people. So really, what are you doing? Are you making your network stronger by focusing everything? How many, what is First Take? 2 hours, right? It's 2 hours, right? Yeah. Something like that? Okay, so you're putting all this money into 2 hours of your programming when you've got a program for 24 hours. Mm-hmm. Is that really smart? I don't know. That thinking is way above my intelligence and way above my pay grade, but I agree with you. I think you're better off spreading that money out and hiring more good people rather than putting it into one person. But I agree. How does that end? I don't know, because you said, does some executive come in and say, hey, we can't do this? Well, the executives are the ones who are making these bad decisions. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah, I don't know. I look at all the negativity and and everything, and it leads to the first like sports topic of this conversation here, and it's the Eagles, Jalen Hurts, and whatnot. And we do know WIP has spent the last 2 weeks every single show, no matter the fact that the Phillies are one of the best teams in baseball, Sixers free agency. Breaking news as we're recording this, it seems that Matvei Michkov will be coming over from Russia to join the Flyers this year.
You know what? I had not heard that. Thank you. I did not hear that this morning.
I saw something breaking on that 2 minutes before you joined this.
Wow.
The studio
okay.
There. So I don't even know the details on it. I just know I saw a major Flyers site report that. But all this stuff happening, and WIP is just dead set focused on the Eagles, and instead of bringing to light the positivity of the Eagles, all the good community stuff, talking about the draft picks or whatever, they're just dead set on creating controversy, and that's it. Does Jalen Hurts have a problem with Nick Sirianni? Does ownership have a problem with Jalen Hurts? Whatever. So I love your general thoughts on Jalen Hurts and going into this next season, which for a lot of Eagles fans, not the radio stations, but the Eagles fans, has a lot of positivity and a lot of hope going into it.
Well, definitely a lot of hope with all the additions that they made. I will say, I mean, there's a lot riding on this season. I mean, was it not to reference WIP, but was it Howard Eskin who said that if Hurts has a bad year this year, they're going to Carson Wentz him, as he put it? And listen, and Eskin's plugged in, and Eskin, look, I have a ton of respect for the guy. I know some people either love him or hate him, but he's pretty plugged in when it comes to the Eagles, and he doesn't really say much in the way of negativity when it comes to the Eagles because he's their sideline guy. So if he's saying that, I got to believe it's true. That being said, I do see a good season for Hurts. I think last year with all the confusion with the coordinator, I think the new coordinator is going to make a big difference this year in terms of his relationship with Sirianni. And the whole thing with the press conference when he didn't talk him up when he was asked the question, I kind of think to a point too much was made of that. It just seems to me like Hurts. Look, even though Hurts talks in these poetic phrases all the time, I think a lot of that is kind of like pre-planned because he kind of, especially after a big game, he'll kind of know what questions are coming his way. But having said that, I think overall, sometimes in a press conference setting, he feels uncomfortable. And I think that was just a bad moment for him, and he just didn't know what to say. And sometimes when you're live, he wasn't live on the air, but essentially he was live on the air. It was being recorded, and whatever he was going to say was going to be played back word for word. You kind of freeze up, and I know that from experience. Your mind goes blank sometimes, and you don't know what to say. But you don't know what to say, and I think he just said that the first thing that popped into his head, and when he said that's a good question, it's because his mind went blank and he was trying to buy himself some time. I don't think there's an issue with him and Sirianni.
I think something that people often overlook, and some people might not even know this, and some of the people on these radio stations might not even realize it. Obviously, Jalen Hurts went to Alabama early in his football college career before he transferred to Oklahoma. And Nick Saban actually has every member of his football team take a class, not like a 1-hour seminar, an actual class on how to handle the media and give them nothing. And I think that what he was doing was just what was pre-trained, pre-taught, how to just be that Bill Belichick, Nick Saban, just stoic, just we got him. We'll do better next. The old Andy Reid cliche type of phrases. Like that's what he is just taught and trained to do because he wants to focus on football. He wants to focus on his business ventures and whatnot. And, I think not enough is focused on his positive things that he does on and off the field and too much just for ratings, just for clicks. And this is not to bash WIP, but I really feel some of the conversation the last 2 weeks was just created to create negativity because negativity, it's like the old saying, sex sells. Negativity sells in sports talk.
It does. And I will say I do agree with you, and I understand. Listen, this is a 12-month-a-year Eagles town, but it does shock me when I listen to sports radio and I hear Eagles conversation dominating when you've got one of the best teams in baseball right now. It does seem a little weird to me, but it is what it is.
I mean, it's funny because I try to bring Union conversation, Flyers conversation. We talk movies on this show. We talk so many different things on this show. But it's simple on the algorithm. If I put a picture of Jalen Hurts, even if this show's going to be Flyers, it gets more views than if I put a picture of Bryce Harper, who's the maybe the second most famous player in Philadelphia right now.
Yeah.
The algorithm, people want to tune in to talk it because it is a 12-month. Football's a 12-month business now. It's a year-long business. It's not just, through the 17 weeks of the season anymore. So that's just the way it is. But you could phrase your things, I feel, in a more positive light and still get those people in here. That's my way of trying to do business.
It makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense.
You mentioned the Phillies. Obviously, the Phillies are, red hot team, one of the best teams in baseball. I don't know about you. You're older, so like me. I'm getting a lot of 1993 vibes from this Phillies team in general. We're recording live while the Phillies are on. It's the third inning, so they're trying to win this series against the Diamondbacks right now. First and foremost, I don't know if you caught on the video. Outside of the actual baseball, something that the Phillies do just so well, and we see it time and time again every year. Alumni weekend, retirement ceremony this weekend with Cole Hamels. The Phillies honor their alumni so well. And that celebration this weekend for Cole Hamels was just top notch and brought back so many memories from the 07-2000 run of Cole Hamels.
I agree. It's always first class because it's never just honoring the person. It's always bringing back people who played with that person, and it's always, it's a full look back, and you're able to reminisce on one of the best times in Phillies history. I mean, who was there? I mean, Carlos Ruiz was there. I'm drawing a blank. Was
Ryan
Rollins?
Howard.
Ryan Howard. Yeah, I mean,
Mike Schmidt was there, obviously. Charlie
Schmidt.
Manuel.
Right.
Jamie Moyer was there as well.
And how great was it to see Charlie Manuel? I mean, the God bless him. He's doing well. It seems like he's recovering well from the stroke. But no, I agree with you. They always do it. They always do it up. They got a video. They've got gifts. And what I really like is how they tie it into the current team as well. How they had Nola and Schwarber come out, and I had forgotten that Schwarber was on the Cubs. When Hamels pitched his no-hitter, that was a pretty good tie-in as well. The Phillies do it right. They really do. You could tell they put their time and effort into planning these things very well.
I mean, you literally see Carlos Ruiz out there crying on the field with Cole Hamels. And it's something that I forget who it was. Somebody shared a picture. There was a Sports Illustrated front cover of the year of 2011 with all the pitchers, all 5 starting pitchers in there. And Joe Blanton was with Roy Oswalt, Cole Hamels, Roy Halladay, and Cliff Lee, because that Phillies team was not – those pitchers were not going to do that cover shoot unless everybody was included, including Joe Blanton, because that clubhouse had great vibes, great chemistry. And vibes and chemistry matter. And I think that translates into this current team, because this 2024 team, I mean, there's some vibes. This team would go to war for each other on a daily basis, and I love that parallel as well.
Oh yeah, there are parallels to the '93 team, no doubt about that. The only thing is, I think we all knew, and again, like you said, I'm a little older than you. How old were you in '93, if you don't mind me asking?
13. I was born in 1980.
Okay, God.
But I'm older. I might be 43, but I have the body of a 75-year-old man.
All right. Well, I was 20 in 1993. Okay, and what I remember about that team was, as great as that team was, and they led from wire to wire. I think we all knew in the back of our minds, this is lightning in a bottle. This is not going to last beyond this year. You don't feel that way this year. This team is built to win now, but this team is also built to win, 3, 4, 5 years from now. So, I mean, I think the present looks bright, but the future looks bright as well. And I agree with you. You can tell this team, they really do love each other. They pick each other up. When one person has a bad game, somebody else is there to pick them up. And I don't mean just pick them up in terms of statistics. I mean to pick them up emotionally, trying to build them back up, talking to them in the locker room. They all care about one another. And what's the expression? Rising tides lift all ships. And that's what this team is. And it's a cool thing to see.
And it comes big. It's brought together by their manager, Rob Thompson, who, just like the last Phillies manager to win a World Series, Charlie Manuel, was constantly under criticism. Just like the last Eagles coach, Doug Peterson was always under criticism, and he won a title. What is it with sometimes, like everybody wants, and even me, sometimes I question Rob Thompson. I question Charlie Manuel back in the day. What is it with these managers? Not necessarily the most prototypically smartest guys in the room, but just know how to work a locker room and keep guys together. Rob Thompson doesn't seem like a great manager on paper, but he does a damn good job holding this group together. And whenever he makes a decision, it works out every single time.
Yeah, it's funny. You're right. He doesn't seem like your typical what a good manager should be. He's not a rah kind of guy. He's not like a Larry Boa type.
I was going to say Larry Boa.
Yeah, I mean, actually Boa's another number in my phone. Sorry, just let me pick up that.
Just a little flex right there.
Let me pick up that name I just dropped. Okay, no, and honestly, if you have a chance to get him on your show, he's a great guy. He's such a great guy to talk to, not just about current Phillies baseball, but obviously reminiscing from back in the day. But anyway, to answer your question, the thing about Rob Thompson, he just seems like a good guy, and he cares. He cares about the players. He cares about the team, but he's not afraid. And Charlie Manuel was the same way. If you remember, when Jimmy Rollins didn't run out a ground ball, he's not afraid to discipline a player as well. He's not afraid to take out a pitcher if he thinks, okay, you know what, this might be it. And a lot of people do question. I mean, I get into arguments all the time with my parents about Rob Thompson, and I don't understand why. I've said to my dad, I'm like, Dad, look at their record. Look at their record. What is your problem with him? Look at their record. Well, he shouldn't have taken Wheeler out in the sixth inning there or whatever. But then on the other hand, if he leaves a pitcher in too long and then the pitcher gets hit, people say, well, he should have taken the pitcher out. To a point, a manager is in a no-win situation.
Absolutely.
They're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. And a manager is only as good as the players. I mean, if Rob Thompson takes Zach Wheeler out in the sixth inning and the bullpen is lights out, hey, he's a genius. But if he takes Zach Wheeler out and puts in, Matt Strahm, and Matt Strahm uncharacteristically gives up a home run, well, why'd he take him out? He should have left him in. The manager can't win. But I think overall, you can't complain about the job that Rob Thompson's done. If you're complaining about Rob Thompson, you got to look in the mirror because you got a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned something. I want to get off on a side tangent here for a second because I'm getting into an argument on Twitter before this show, and I'm sure while we're recording this, I'm getting blasted even more with notifications. Because Sunday's game was on Roku TV right now as we're recording this. It's on Roku TV. On Friday, it was on Apple TV. And you mentioned your parents. Now I know how old you are, so I could ballpark how old your folks are. And I think it's getting out of control, not just baseball, football, basketball, all sports. Hell, I can't watch an MLS Philadelphia Union game because they're all on Apple TV.
Yep.
All these football, all these different sports leagues going to so many different platforms make it hard for you and I, but we're at least a little bit technically inclined to be able to know, all right, we could download Roku if we want to, or we could sign up for a trial of Apple TV to watch the game. But there's a whole generation of fans that are kind of, not to talk down on older people, that aren't as technically inclined and don't even want to be able to do all that stuff, that are being hurt in watching their favorite team. The retired folks that can't actually watch every night because you never know where a game is. That's another evolution in TV and radio, is all the different streaming services. And everyone always said, cut the cord from cable. Well, now you cut the cord, and now you're spending more money because you gotta download 97 different apps to watch your team play.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm one of those. I'm not quite as old as the older people you're talking about, but what I don't know about technology can fill volumes. My son, my 21-year-old son, had to set this up just so I could talk to you today, or else I would have screwed that up probably. My podcast, my son set that up. It's a pretty cool setup that I have, and it's all because I have a pretty smart 21-year-old kid. I don't know where he gets his brains, not from his father, probably from his mother, I guess. But no, you're right. You're right, and it's funny you mentioned the union. When MLS went to that deal, when they were all Apple, and first of all, that impacted me as an employee of PHL 17 because we were airing the union games. We were the home of the union, okay? And once MLS went exclusive Apple, all the local deals went away. All the local announcers went away. I mean, Dave Leno moved from TV to radio, so he's doing the games on the Fanatic. And so I was talking to Dave. Dave's a buddy of mine, and I said to him, no disrespect or anything, but I understand it's a money grab, and Apple's paying MLS a huge amount of money. But anytime a league limits their accessibility and their visibility, I don't care how much money you're getting. It's not a good thing. If you limit the amount of people who can watch you or who will watch you, it's not a good thing. And that's what MLS did. That's what Major League Baseball is doing. Look, the NFL to a point, I like what the NFL does. Even the games that are on Prime, the two teams that are involved, it's on an over-the-air channel. Even when the game's on ESPN, when it's on cable, the NFL will put the game on an over-the-air channel. That's another thing. I mean, first, it was bad enough when sports went exclusively pretty much to cable television. Like all the Phillies games, except for a handful that are on NBC 10, all the Phillies games are on NBC Sports Philly. If you don't have cable, you're out of luck. That's not good. But it's gotten even worse now because even if you have cable, you can't watch certain games. I just think as a general rule of thumb, anytime you limit your accessibility to people, I don't care how much money you're getting, it's in the long run, it's not a good thing. In the short term, it's great. You get the money, but in the long run, not good.
I think if you've met my friend Mark Moscatelli, he's been on this show with me. I think the last time you were on the show, he was my co-host on that show that day. I think of his father this weekend, who's pretty old now at this point. I think he's in his 80s, and his life centers around watching Phillies baseball this weekend. He just has basic cable, and that's it. Like I'm assuming, unless Mark wanted to go over there and figure out a way to set it up for him, Big Ed, who I like to call him Big Ed, he's not watching baseball 2 out of 3 days this weekend, which is basically what his, in his 80s, that's what he does. He sets his day up around watching Trending in the AM and Phillies baseball. I think his priorities are a little wrong with both those, but I just think it's just becoming too much.
Yeah, he's a smart man.
I could download the Roku app and watch the game today if I wanted to, but I'm refusing to out of principle because I think it's getting out of hand to an extent.
Well, and not only that, I don't understand the scheduling of it. All right, if you want to put some games on streaming, okay, fine, spread it out. You're going to put 2 out of 3 games in one series on streaming, and especially a series that has so much of a storyline because it's a rematch with the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Absolutely.
I just don't understand Major League Baseball's thinking. Unless their thinking is, hey, it's a great storyline, maybe people will sign up for these streaming services. But no, I think people are going to do what you're doing and what I'm doing. Look, if a game is on Apple or on Roku or whatever, any game that's on streaming, I don't even bother. I don't. And I should, but I don't. If I want, I'll just turn on the radio and I'll enjoy Fransky in LA because they do a damn good broadcast. And I love
Fransky in LA should be, no offense to John Kruk and Tom McCarthy. I love Tom McCarthy. I think he gets a bad rap in this city, as do a lot of pretty much anybody that replaces a legend like Tom McCarthy replaced, just like, Kate Scott replaced a legend as well. They're always going to get rough, but I love the work that Scott Fransky and Larry Anderson do. I was just watching I forget what I was watching, but whatever it was an old replay of a Phillies game and it had Larry Anderson on the call on TV. And I missed having Larry Anderson on a TV call because he just does a fantastic job calling baseball games.
Well, back in the day, I'm showing my age here again. Back in the day, when it was Harry
whenever
and Whitey,
whenever you start with saying back in the day, you don't have to say you're showing your age because that statement alone shows your age.
It's a good point. Okay. Harry Callis and Richie Ashburn, when they were doing the games for a while, they would do the first 3 and the last 3 innings, and the middle 3 was Andy Musser and Chris Wheeler.
Yep.
So I would love to see the Phillies do something like that where you get Fransky in L.A. for innings 4, 5, and 6, and that way you get McCarthy and Kruk on the radio too. So the TV viewers and the radio listeners each get a taste of every announcer. But I don't think they're going to do that.
Yeah, no, I do remember that, and that was Andy Musser is an extremely underrated announcer in Phillies history for sure.
I'm sorry, you froze there on me. Andy Musser.
Andy Musser is one of the most underrated guys that have called Phillies games in the history of the Phillies. Was a fantastic gentleman.
I totally agree. I had Chris Wheeler on a recent podcast, and I said the exact same thing. Andy Musser, and I use that word, underrated. He probably the most underrated, especially in sports, broadcaster that this town's ever seen. And he didn't get the appreciation he deserved because he wasn't Harry Callis. But you look at his, and again I'm showing my age, but the Mike Schmidt call in Montreal in 1980, last weekend of the season. It was his, I guess it was his 48th home run of the year, but that's what kind of propelled the Phillies to win the NL East. Andy Musser's call, he buried it. Google it, okay, or YouTube it. It's phenomenal. One of the best calls you'll ever hear. Not just one of the best Philadelphia calls, one of the best all-time calls you'll ever hear. And the guy did Sixers basketball. He did Villanova basketball. He did the Eagles games way, way back in the day before he did Phillies games. And he actually, I believe, did a couple of Super Bowls nationally for CBS Radio in the early 70s. This guy was a world-class broadcaster.
Absolutely agree. Real quick to wrap up Phillies talk here. Obviously, we've drawn parallels to the Cole Hamels era, but also '93. I mean, are you pretty confident that they can at least, make a run towards the World Series, a deep run in the playoffs, be fighting for the pennant, maybe that World Series? Because let me remind you, the last time the Phillies won the World Series, 2008, the Boston Celtics won the NBA championship.
Oh,
Celtics just won the NBA championship. So I'm trying to find some segues here.
Somebody else said that to me, and I said, okay, that's just a weird coincidence. Hey, by the way, before I answer your question, the Fransky and LA bobblehead, since we were just talking about them,
I need to improve. I've only got 3 bobbleheads up here. I got to improve and start collecting more bobbleheads for the background.
It's one of the great giveaways the Phillies have ever had. So anyway, but now to answer your question, and I'm going to come off being a cynical Philadelphia fan, but I've been a Philadelphia sports fan my entire life. So after 50 plus years, yeah, I guess I'm a little cynical. So listen, this lineup, yes, they're capable of what they did on Saturday, belting out, what was it, 12 runs, I guess it was, in the game on Saturday. But I'm also seeing way too much of what was their undoing against Arizona in the NLCS last season. The offense, for some reason, goes stagnant way too much, and they seem to all go stagnant at the same time. If their pitching wasn't as dominant as it was, would their record be anywhere near what it is right now? Honestly, so yeah, on paper, they should at least get to the World Series. I'm not going to say win. Obviously, it's a hard thing to do, but they should get to the World Series. But if their lineup goes stagnant at the wrong time, like it did last season, I mean, all bets are off. To me, I'll believe it when I see it. And I hate to be like, I'm one of the biggest Phillies fans there is. I've been a Phillies fan my entire life. I'm even wearing this what do you call it? The City Connect that people say.
I love them. I think they're awesome jerseys. I do.
That says people say is ugly. I like it. I like them. But yeah, I worry. I do worry about them getting into the postseason. If the pitching holds up, obviously they got a chance against anybody. But if even if the pitching doesn't give up any runs, if you don't score any, you're not winning the game. So, we'll
so real quick though, the confidence level there with the Phillies is high. Being cynical, understanding that things can go wrong. On the flip side, the Sixers, who are entering a very critical offseason, they're not. The confidence level is not there with them. And I just want to ask you one simple Sixers question. And you're showing your age. You're older. You've been around for a little while. Can an NBA team outside of the Denver Nuggets with Nikola Jokic, can they win? Not win a title, win consistently and successfully with a big man like Joel Embiid in the middle? Because if you think about it, we've had a lot of different, and this is not saying I don't like Joel Embiid or I want to trade him, but if you look at the common denominator since the process started, the only person that's been here since day one is Joel Embiid. You know what I mean? We've had 3 coaches now, multiple different superstars comboed with him and whatnot. This is not the age of Hakeem Olajuwon or David Robinson or Tim Duncan anymore. You look at all the other teams. None of them have superstar centers as their middle. Do you think that there's a problem there and that at some point that this is just going to end badly for the Sixers?
In one word, yes.
That's a simple. Show's over. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We're out.
Yeah. No, I hate to say that, but watching the Boston Celtics win the title actually made me really, really depressed about the Sixers. I don't see, I don't care who you bring in. I don't care what free agent you bring in to play alongside Embiid. I don't see the Sixers beating the Celtics anytime soon. And your window with Embiid is closing. Yeah, and again, it's like you said. This is no disrespect to Joel Embiid. The guy obviously is a huge talent. He's one of the best in the game today. he gives 1,000% pretty much every time on the floor, but every year it's the same thing. Either he's battling an injury in the playoffs, or he's gassed because they're playing so many games in a short amount of time. Look, he's a big man, okay? And those knees, those legs are carrying a lot of weight because he's such a big man. And this past season, I don't think he played 40 games in the regular season. He missed a lot of games, but in the playoffs, it was still the same thing. It was still, he's tired, he's fighting an injury. And, I mean, at what point, if you're the Sixers, do you just cut your losses and say, we tried it, it didn't work, now we got to try something else, and trade him and get a bunch of draft picks back? Honestly, if they did that, that wouldn't upset me.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know about
you're going to, obviously we're not live right now, so the comments aren't popping up on the screen. But
well, thank God we're not live, because
no, there's
I
quite
get trashed, right?
There's quite a few people that tune in regularly to this show that tell me on a regular basis that you've got to trade Joel Embiid and not start over the process, but move on from that Joel Embiid version of the process, because, there was just a trade the other day. I forget, or there was a trade proposal the other day for Anthony Davis of the Lakers to another team. It was like 2 young up-and-coming players, 4 first-round draft picks. Would this be a smart move, for the Lakers to move on from Anthony Davis? I'm like, honestly, if I got a package of 2 young up-and-coming stars and 4 first-round draft picks, yeah, we might take a step back next year. But then you'd have a young core to build around Tyrese Maxey, who, in all intents and purposes, lives and breathes Philadelphia as well. I mean, it might be the smart decision. 1 step back, 2 steps forward kind of scenario.
Yeah, at some point you have to admit when you failed, okay? Mm-hmm. And it's a hard thing to do. And I'm not going to say the process overall failed. I think the way the process was handled is what failed. I mean, how many high draft picks did they screw up? I mean, Ben Simmons ended up being a bad pick. Markelle Fultz ended up being a bad pick. If we got players there, who knows where we'd be right now? But at this point, with the way the team is presently constituted, along with the way the Boston Celtics are presently constituted, you're not going to win. So, yeah, I mean, to me, you cut your losses, and if you can get a package like that, yeah, I think you go for it.
Absolutely.
But I don't think they're going to.
I don't think they're going to do it either.
No.
Real quick, we kind of forgot to do this. So real quick, before we wrap this up, everybody, we're just going to shout out some of our great sponsors, SherryTickets.com. Great moments don't just happen. They happen with you in the crowd. SherryTickets.com is not like any of the other resale sites. There's no hidden fees. Price you see is the price you pay. Check out the promo code on the screen. You can save extra. You can also give them a call, 610-494-5050. Just mention an EOP to get some personal touch from them. And, of course, PhillySportsTrips.com. They got a great trip to Brazil to see the Eagles week 1 in Brazil take on the Green Bay Packers. But they also have tailgating experiences in August and trips to see the Phillies in Pittsburgh, a trip to see the Union in Miami, and, of course, all of our Birds, takeover events that they do. And finally, our final sponsor, David R. Cherry, the Cherry Law Firm. He is here to fight for your rights, guys. Quick read of those ads right there. But make sure you check out David R. Cherry, 610-565-0300. Go to TreyInjuryLaw.com. Again, we got Jason Lee from PHL 17, from Traffic Updates. I mean, obviously, also the Philly Sports Convo linked below. I know you've had some great legends, and I just caught the latest episode where you had a young up-and-coming Flyers reporter, Haley Simon, who I love. Haley, I love her Phillies podcast.
Yep. Yeah, she's great.
As well. So, guys, make sure you check that out. And real
quick.
Oh, go ahead.
Real quick. Can I interrupt you for 1 second?
You can.
The Sherry's tickets. What was that promo code? Because my daughter wants to see Green Day. Okay, and I got to get some Green Day tickets. So what was that again?
EOP10 is the promo code to get 10% off.
There you go. All right, my man.
Hold on, I wrote that down. Green Day still does concerts?
Yeah, they're going to be at Citizens Bank Park August 9th. It's Green Day, Smashing Pumpkins, and some band called Rancid that I've never heard of.
God. I have a Rancid's original CD somewhere, wherever my CD case is. So
are you serious?
That is a hell of a lineup right there.
You serious? You have a Rancid CD?
I do. I was a big ska skater boy, that kind of music. I never dressed the part, but I loved that kind of music back then.
Oh my!
Again, I mean, this is dating me a little bit. The original Y100 era. I was huge into the Y100 era. when they did, what were they called, the festivals and all at
I remember that.
the Camden. I was at every single
Sure.
one of them. I had every single one of their festival compilation CDs. That's where Preston and Steve got their start. Back when they were by the Granite Run Mall in that little tiny studio. I was anywhere they said to be, I was there.
I'm going to name drop again. One of my good friends, Marilyn Russell, worked with Preston and Steve. It was the Preston, Marilyn, and Steve show back on Y100.
It was actually Preston and Marilyn first, and then they added Steve Morrison to it. And then, it was back then it was the PMS show. That's what they used to have the nickname for. So,
right, the PMS, exactly right.
The PMS show back then. We talk about media and all that kind of stuff, and I'm getting on a side tangent here. One consistent that hasn't changed, but they've evolved in a positive way, and they've done so much great work. I try to shout out Preston Elliott and Steve Morrison, Casey, Nick, that entire crew there. They do fantastic work, and there's a reason why. I think they just got elected into like a Hall of Fame or something like that.
Yeah, the Radio Hall of Fame, yep.
Yeah. So, legendary group there. I love them.
Let me tell you something about those guys real quick. So I used to work at Ben FM, okay? Mm-hmm. Ben FM is literally right down the hall from MMR, okay? And I was with the morning show, so I was there when those guys were there. Then I got moved to midday, so I was on from 10 to 3. And there were times at 3 in the afternoon when I was off the air, those guys were still at the station planning for the next day. So those guys, their entire crew, they work their asses off. They deserve every ounce of success, every dollar that they've earned. They deserve it all because they're phenomenal. Yeah, they work hard.
They don't only just put on a great show; they also do so much great, work for the community. Not just the Camp Out for Hunger, but so many other things. They're fantastic.
Blood drive.
And,
yep.
Yeah, they do so much great stuff right there. Real quick, outside of all the great work you do on TV, radio, and with your podcast, you're also doing a trivia. Like, if you didn't have enough on your plate already, you're doing trivia night in Warminster. It's the Blue Bar Company on Tuesday nights. What time is that? What can people expect? I would love some EOP Train the AM fans to go show you some support if they're out in that area.
I would love that. And, the problem is, so you and I live so far from one another because, I'd love to have you come out to trivia. I got to come out and check out Fox's Pizza Den. But I'm in Warminster, Bucks County. I'm so far from you. Yeah, there you go. But I'm telling you, one of these days this summer, I'm gonna take the morning off, and I told my son we're gonna make the trek out to Kennett Square and have some pizza. But it's the Blue Bar every Tuesday night. It's from 7 to 9 p.m. It's on York Road in Warminster between Street Road and County Line Road. It's a cute little spot. Great food, great drinks, great people. It's general knowledge trivia. We do 3 question and answer rounds. We do a speed round. We do what I call a handout round. I just hand out a piece of paper. It's like fill in the blank, basically. But it's a lot of fun, and there's some cool prizes, and it's a good crowd. So come on out.
How'd you convince your wife to let you take on another job on top of all the work that you already do? Does your wife ever actually see you?
No, that's how the marriage lasts so long. It's really.
I'm going to tell my wife the secret to a good marriage is what I do here every day. Yeah,
that's the key to a good marriage. You never see each other. So when you do see each other, it's hey. It's like absence makes the heart grow fonder. How did I get her to agree to it? The paycheck.
There you go.
the paycheck. The paycheck. Now, listen. I mean, it goes back to what we were saying at the beginning of the show. Never say no to anything. Never.
I think it's a great way to segue back to the original topic and wrap it up right there. Jason, anything else that I've missed to plug for you or to do for you there? Or any final parting thoughts here as we wrap this show up today?
Follow me, Jason Lee on air on what do they call it? X, Twitter, whatever they call it.
It'll always be Twitter.
Exactly. And Instagram. And I want to say one thing about you, if I may. Okay? Do you mind?
You can, yeah. I'm not very good handling compliments, so I always feel a little uncomfortable. But it's
who said I was going to compliment you? I was going to say you're a pain in the ass. No,
I set you up for that one right there.
No, first of all, I love the Harry Callis picture in the background there, but that's not what I was going to say. What I was going to say was I want everybody watching this to understand, because your show is what, an hour and a half?
Hour and a half, 5 days a week. Plus, I do other shows on top of it.
Okay, so I want this guy wakes up every morning and does a show, a sports talk show, where unless he's got someone who talks a lot like me on the air, he's talking the entire time for an hour and a half. Then he goes to work and does a full work day. I don't think, and you and I have talked about this privately before, I don't think people understand the time and the energy it takes to put your show on every day. And Like if it were me and I had to go to work after that, I would be totally winded. I'd be, mentally exhausted after doing 90 minutes. People don't think 90 minutes is a long time, but when you're the only one talking and you're doing the show by yourself, you're by yourself, and people do, chime in with the comments,
Right.
but it's not like it's a sports talk show, a call-in show where you got the caller talking back and forth with you. You're talking the entire time by yourself. That's a lot, man. I admire you. I admire what you do. I respect what you do. You're damn good at what you do, and I'm proud to call you a friend, and you do a really good show.
Well, I appreciate that because I do say that a lot, that people don't understand that it's not just click, go live and whatnot. There's a lot of other work that goes into it. And we call it the core 12, the regulars that are there every single day. It's more than 12 people. That's just the nickname we've given them. They're pushing for me to move it to 2 hours now. And I'm like, guys, 2 hours. I would love to do 2 hours, but you're talking about 30 more minutes every day for me to talk nonstop. 30 more minutes of my time. That's 30 minutes late to the pizza shop, 30 minutes less sleep, whatever it may be.
Yep.
But that's why, like I say at the beginning and end of every show, guys, hit that like button, that share button, that subscribe button, that follow button. The more people that tune in, the more people that watch and find it, more ad reads I can find, more ways to justify telling the wife I might be 30 minutes late to work every single day because then she sees the paycheck and she's okay. It's not just that, but it's also to get the more people involved.
Sure.
That's why it's so important to, whenever you find a content creator, if you find Jason's show on YouTube or on his website, phillysportsconvo.com, make sure you're following it. You're subscribing to it.
I appreciate
anybody that you like. I always tell people, not just with this, but with my pizza shop posts as well on social media, it's free to support somebody by hitting that like button and share button.
Yep.
It does not cost you a thing to do that. It doesn't cost you a thing to tag somebody, or in a community board on Facebook, just shout somebody out. It's free to do it, and it takes a second. So that's why I always say that in every single show. It's free to support. You know what I mean? With that being said, we're going to wrap it up right here for the day. Quick day.
You
like I
just froze
said,
up
I'm
there
out
for a
golfing.
second.
Oh, it's okay. We're going to wrap it up right there for the day. Again, Jason Lee, make sure you guys follow him everywhere. I appreciate your time. I am Phil Stiefel. Hopefully, I am not too far over par with my foursome at the charity outing while you guys are watching this. But probably knowing the fact that I haven't swung a golf club in 6 months, I'm probably 6 beers deep instead of 6 strokes deep or anything like that. But everybody have a great Monday. I will be back Tuesday morning live with your comments. As always, back to a regular 90-minute show, guys. Everybody have a great day. Go Birds. Ring the bell. And Jason, as I end every show now, it's very simple. It's bubbles up.